You're all set, Ajay?
Okay. You can see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, welcome everyone to the last lecture in the series, lecture 19. And it's quite interesting that we started in at the end of August and we are at the end of January. So, yeah, 5 months have gone by, and yeah, I hope it has been interesting for all of you. Shri Guru Vyo Namaha. We will pay respect to the main inspirers of this program. Our Shanti mantra. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sah Vidyam Karvavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we all be protected and nourished with knowledge. May we make effort for the capacity of knowledge to take place. May what is done by us be does not have misunderstanding, peace. So, in the agenda today, what going to do is we'll cover, summarize the coverage. Is, yeah, for some reason I got disconnected. Can you see me now?
Yes, Ajay, can see you now. I think you would need to share your screen again.
Yeah, I will share again. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen, Ajay.
Yeah, I wonder what happened, but anyway, uh, because Southern California is not having any power issues. So, anyway, um, so we will summarize. We will take a short time to go through the course material, hopefully not more than 20 odd minutes for both of us. And then, importantly, we will try to get your feedback and your honest feedback on how the course was, what can we do to improve, what are the opportunities to change the structure and so on. Okay. So the areas covered by me, we covered cosmology. We covered two lectures in the area of cosmology, looking at Western cosmology, looking at the current scientific status of what people are aware of in cosmology currently. We compared that with the Vedic or the Bharatiya cosmology that has existed for thousands of years. We also covered the areas of astronomy according to Bhagavad Purana or Srimad Bhagavatam. Then we looked at some ancient Indian texts and the work done by different astronomers, looking at the antiquity of the whole Indian Bharatiya astronomy. Then we also looked at some stories, trying to correlate the stories to the astronomical phenomenon, and also using archaeoastronomy to try and date some of the stories. So the first thing we looked at, we began our series, our lectures with trying to understand where the current science is, where the Western outlook on cosmology is. We looked at cosmology as a combination of cosmogenesis, which is the study of the universe's origin, its structure, its evolution, and its eventual fate. So that together is cosmology. The cosmogenesis, the theory that is most prevalent right now is the Big Bang theory, that the universe began 13.8 billion years ago, and it started off as a hot, dense singularity. So the singularity concept was this concept of a hypothetical point of infinite density. So that is where the universe started. That is the current view. And then in the 1920s and 30s, Edwin Hubble used the spectroscopic analysis of the observation of galaxies, and he made the theory of redshift, which is basically pointing to the expansion of the universe. So the Big Bang was not was a term coined in the 1950s, but it was more about expansion than explosion. There was another piece of evidence that basically corroborated the expansion of the universe, and that was the cosmic microwave background, and it basically showed the echo of the expansion occurring from the start. In terms of the fate of the universe, there are different hypotheses that are going around. None of them are as prevalent as the Big Bang theory, but there is a Big Crunch theory, which is basically stating that the universe will eventually, as the gravity wins over expansion, it will actually start collapsing into a dense state again. So that is the Big Crunch theory. And then there is also the Big Bounce theory, which is essentially talking about this entire phenomenon occurring as a cyclic phenomenon, where the Big Crunch will lead to another Big Bang and therefore a Big Bounce. We compared that, we looked at the entire Vedic cosmology that has existed for many thousands of years. And we looked at the fact that the Vedic cosmology is a combination of three different things. It is a combination of the philosophy, the metaphysics, the spirituality or the divinity, and the observational phenomenon that has been occurring. So there we see that Vedic cosmology was a combination encompassing all these different areas, which talked about the source of creation, the purpose of creation, the cyclic nature of creation, and tying it all together with what is happening, what can be observed. So it was interesting that the entire Vedic cosmology was not looking at the universe as separate from our existence. It never separated the observational part from spirituality. So I always like to call it that Vedic cosmology looked at the universe or us humans as a part of the universe, whereas the modern science looks at the universe as apart from us. So a part versus a part. So we looked at the cosmic tapestry of the entire cosmology. We looked at the different suttas, which is amazing how they talked about all of these possibilities, origins, big bonds theory. What is being talked about now was talked about by different suttas in the Rig Veda. It is Nasadiya Sukta, Purusha Sukta, Devi Sukta, Hiranyagarbha Sukta, and we also talked about all the different philosophy that incorporate aspects of cosmology in Sankhya, Yoga. We briefly touched upon Bhagavad Purana, and it is basically saying that it is a blend of philosophy, spirituality, observation, cosmic wonder, and therefore is much more timeless from that perspective. We looked at Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Purana. We looked at a few different interpretations. We looked at the work of Richard Thompson, who's done quite a bit of interpretation in terms of trying to understand what the Bhagavad Purana or the fifth canto in particular that deals with astronomy is actually telling us. And how is it related to modern knowledge or understanding? So we looked at the description of the Bhumandala in terms of a composite map where you have four different aspects being expressed in one description, looking at the geography, looking at the polar projection, looking at the solar system, and looking at spiritual realms as well. So we looked at the entire construction as a planisphere. It was also very interesting that converting it into that kind of solar system, for example, a model, he got like a very low percentage error in actually determining the orbital radii of different planets. That is quite amazing. So from his interpretation, he could actually determine that the orbital radius of Jupiter was pretty much exactly almost how it is described in the current scientific understanding. We also looked at the interpretation of Subhash Kak, who is also another leading astronomer or leading professor in this area, and he quoted different parts of the Bhagavatam, and he looked at the expanse of the years that have been calculated in Bhagavata, and he looked at it was interesting. He looked at the speed, or he interpreted the motion of the sun and light, and he came out to almost using the figures from the Bhagavatam came very close to the speed of light as compared to the modern understanding. We looked at the antiquity of the Indian astronomical observations and astronomical details that are being expressed in different texts and the work done by different astronomers. We looked at, we took the example of some of the figures and sculptures that were found in the ancient Mohenjo-daro archaeological excavations. And there we saw that it could be dated to back to 3000 BCE. We also saw that Rig Veda actually mentioned so many of the different phenomenon that we look at right now. We looked at the one of the episodes from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which is the Yajnavalkya and Gargi dialogue. And the entire dialogue is very, very insightful. I mean, it's very incredible to the kind of detail that Yajnavalkya actually went into. And we saw that at this maybe more than a few thousand years ago, that he talked about gravity as Aksharasya Prashne, which is the immutable force that holds the planets and everything in place. We also looked at the eclipse prediction by Rishi Atri and the comets that he talks about as well. Then we looked at some of the later astronomers, relatively later, that actually are more documented and more observational kind of documentation that has been done. We looked at Aryabhatta, we looked at Varamahira, Bhaskara, Brahmagupta, and so on. So it is interesting the kind of observation that they made. Aryabhatta very accurately predicted eclipse, and we talked about the whole phenomenon of Rahu and Ketu, again from in terms of ascending and descending nodes. Now, that is a very mathematically intense calculation that you have to do. It's like looking at three-dimensional motion of three different things. The sun, the moon, and the earth, and the intersection of their orbits. That is a very difficult mathematical calculation that is even not easily done, even with all these supercomputers that we have now. We looked at how Varamahira and Brahmagupta actually talked about gravity, and note that their observations on gravity and their observations on the existence of Gurutva, as they called it, was more than 1,000 years before Newton time actually documented gravity, or as is known in the Western parlance. We looked at many of the different stories and understood that these stories actually are not stories, but also have a very hidden meaning behind them. We looked at the Dhruva story. We talked about the pole star, which we now know as Polaris, but when the Dhruva story was actually documented, they talked about having a companion star right next to Dhruva, and then we know that using the precession calculations, we can date the story to around 2800 BCE, where the pole star was not Polaris as it is right now, but was Thuban and had a companion star. We looked at the incredible nature of this story of Chandra and his 27 wives, which had this wisdom of the entire the nature of orbit of the moon, its sidereal orbit, then talking about the waxing and waning, talking about the synodic month. It also, it was again very incredible how the entire aspect of lunar occultation was picked up by our ancient rishis, where they talked about Rohini being his favorite wife, and then we saw that there was this incredible amount of information in terms of the placement of the nakshatra and the ecliptic orbit of the moon around the earth. We looked at how time dilation was covered in the story of Kakudmi, and like I said before, I think the Kakudmi story was only one of the many stories which talk about time dilation. So this concept of time dilation was known for many years, and then how that now is mirrored in the current understanding by this twin paradox, and how this twin paradox was used in the movie Interstellar, and how that movie actually almost reflected the story of Kakudmi in a different way. We looked at the Surya Sanjana story, and again, there the concept of Dakshinayana, Uttarayana was explained in a story, and also the birth of the Ashwinis, and their heliacal rising was dated clearly to that to a very ancient period, 7200 BCE. So and this entire thing, it puts the whole Western narrative about the different theories, including Aryan invasion, which is now called Aryan migration, that is completely nonsensical. We looked at the incredible information in the Samudra Manthan story, which so many different aspects of the story and the astronomical pointers to these. So it's incredible that there's so much wisdom encoded in the stories, and there's so much antiquity in the stories. So for us, it is a very imperative that we understand these astronomical facts behind the stories. We find the key to unlock this knowledge and pass it on. So that is what a quick summary of what we did, or what I covered, and I'll pass it on to Murthy.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So Ajay, maybe you can just continue to share the screen if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Or
no problem at
do you
all.
want me to share it?
No,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
fine. Just let me know when you want to change the slide.
Sure. Perfect, perfect. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, while Ajay covered the more interesting parts of the course, like stories and everything, I had to deal with the not so interesting parts, like, like calculations and all that. But hopefully, you learned something from the sections that I took. Yeah, prime. So the modules that I covered, uh, history and evolution of Bharatiya astronomy, maybe in a little bit kind of different perspective than what Ajay provided. Then we looked at, let's say, the core of the Indian astronomical model, right? And then what is time? How is time modeled in Bharatiya astronomy? And then very briefly, we touched upon the planetary model, right? Um, so we can just go forward, Ajay. Um, yeah. So brief history of Bharatiya astronomy and its evolution was the first one. Ajay, you can just go forward. Yeah. Yeah. Just yeah. You can just go forward. All right. So yeah, we talked about how astronomy progressed, right, in India from the ancient times. So very initially, we saw that the Vedas, the Puranas, and such texts were encoding astronomical phenomena in verses, in poetry, and in the glorification of the God and the different elements of the universe, right? But then when we approach the Vedanta Jyotisha era as time progresses, we see that uh, a formal structure of uh, documenting astronomical phenomena comes into existence. The sky is divided into 12 rasis, 27 nakshatras, and uh, and the astronomers are trying to uh, calculate the position of the vernal equinox, which had an important role even during the Vedanta Jyotisha era for the purpose of conducting the yajna. And the Vedanta Jyotisha era then transitions into the Siddhantic and the post-Siddhantic era, where there is a lot of mathematical rigor coming into the study of the universe. Um there are new models that are proposed by the later astronomers, theoretical models of the solar system, and based on uh, heavy mathematics, including trigonometry, calculus, spherical geometry, and all that. So we see that the gradual shift happens from more qualitative description of astronomical observations to a more quantitative uh, dealing of the astronomical phenomena, as a result of which today we have very precise calculations of the planetary positions, the timing of the eclipses, and all such phenomena which continue to govern our day-to-day lives. Right. So that's a very brief history of how astronomy evolved on the shoulders of uh, giants, like Aryabhata and Bhaskara and Nilakanta. Right. So Ajay, if you can move forward. Next. Just click. Yeah. And then and then we saw the six limbs of the Vedas of the Vedanga, of which Jyotisha is one, right? So the others being Chandas, Vyakarana, Kalpa, Shiksha, and Nirukta. Jyotisha itself has three layers, so to speak: Ganita, Samhita, and Hora. Ganita deals with the the spherical astronomy part of it, the calculations of the positions of the planets, eclipses, and all the physical phenomena and their computations. The Samhita deals with uh, uh, the forecast on a large mass of population. So how natural phenomena impacts large populations, like earthquakes or the forecast on agriculture, etc. Then the Hora is deals with individual astrology. So Samhita and Hora were not kind of. the scope of this course. So we touched upon a little bit of Ganita, which is the uh, uh, foundational part of the entire Jyotisha Vedanga, right? Uh, Ajay can just go to the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just like we also saw that there's a continued chain of innovation and the mathematical rigor that was brought in by the post Siddhantic and the post Siddhantic era. So knowledge continued to evolve on the work that was done by these different astronomers. So the major takeaway here, I would say, is threefold. Right, one is all of these astronomers did not accept what their predecessors said. They challenged the status quo, and they wherever they thought that there was a lack of understanding, they completed that gap. So that's number one. Secondly, they relied or they gave a lot of importance to observations while coming up with their refinements. Right. For example, we saw the story of I think Parameshwara, right, who went from all the way from Kerala to Gokarna to watch a solar eclipse at the best possible position that he can and capture some very detailed observations of the positions so that he could take it back and reflect those upon his work which so and the same with Nilakanta Somayaji as well, who placed a lot of importance on observation, and as a result of this they were able to really refine very effectively the existing models of the time. For example, Nilakanta in his Tantra Sangraha came up with a quasi-heliocentric model where it was the beginning of the heliocentric model as we know today, where he said that not all planets revolve around the Earth as it was supposed at that time, but in a different manner, right? So, yeah, so basically, uh, so there was a very continuous process of refinement and innovation through which the knowledge of astronomy evolved over a period of time. Next, Ajay. Yeah, next. Okay, yeah, and we saw that we followed a scientific approach, right? Like we just discussed, observation, and then we do a mathematical modeling. We come up with predictive models, for example, the quasi-heliocentric model, and then we refine that on the back of new observations that are made, right? So this continuous process ensured that uh, the the knowledge evolved in a very scientific, tested way with all the checks and balances. Next, yeah. So we touched upon the Vedanga Jyotisha and how uh, the antiquity of the Vedanga Jyotisha itself was established through the slokas present in the text itself. For example, we saw that the summer solstice happened in Aslesha and the winter solstice was happening in Danya during the time of Vedanga Jyotisha. And we were able to use this information uh, uh, to find out the age or the time frame of Vedanga Jyotisha. Different scholars tried to do it, Western astronomers and Indian astronomers. And the Western astronomers tended to be biased more towards recent, whereas the Indian astronomers tended to be biased towards the more the former, right? But it was agreed that overall it was sometime around the 1400 BC era that the Vedanga Jyotisha was written, right? Uh, and in order to do that, in order to time this, we took into account the concept of precession. So precession by which the positions of the solstices uh, change every year by a very small amount, adding up to a huge change over thousands of years, which was factored into time of the Vedanga Jyotisha era. Then we also saw the 18 Siddhantas that are as listed here. However, most of the Siddhantas are not available today for various reasons. However, we do have complete access to the Surya Siddhanta, and Surya Siddhanta is called as the crown jewel of all the Siddhantas. And Varahamihira, he compiled the five Siddhantas that are outlined here, the Surya Pita, Paitamaha, Paulisa, Vashishta, and Lomasa, into his Pancha Siddhantika, which is a very comprehensive textbook on, or not textbook, it's mostly like a research paper on astronomy that is still studied today. Next, Ajay. And we also saw that the knowledge of astronomy was not limited to certain geographical areas. It was widespread across the Indian subcontinent. We saw that people were moving from one place to another, and the knowledge was getting exchanged across different regions of the subcontinent. We also saw that in the more recent times, relatively recent times, the knowledge moved further south, and the Kerala School of Astronomy produced really some great stalwarts like Parameshwara and Madhava and Nilakanta and people like that, right? So it was a very widespread knowledge, not limited to any specific region. Next, again. And then, so with a very high level understanding of how astronomy evolved, they were then able to go a little bit deeper into the core astronomical model that the Bharatiyas used for a very long time. Next. Yeah. So the primary purpose of Jyotisha is Digdesha Kala Jnanam, which is the knowledge of direction, location, and time. And this was considered very important, that our ancestors took a lot of pain to build instruments that could accurately capture uh, the location, the time, and the direction of where they existed. And next, Ajay. And all of this was important for one primary reason, which is to find out where is that vernal equinox, right, every year. So the determination of the vernal equinox is the single most important quest of our ancient astronomers. And because it was very important to start the yearly cycle of yajnas, starting from the vernal equinox, and hence they took great pains, and they used sophisticated instrumentation and calculations to pin this vernal equinox. Right now, when they did that, they also found that the vernal equinox was actually not. Uh, it was actually starting at different times of the year due to precision. We'll discuss that as well. But then we touched a little bit upon the spherical coordinates, right? So what an ecliptic is? What is a celestial equator? How do you fix the coordinates of any object on the celestial sphere, uh, solstices and equinoxes? So ecliptic we know is the path that is taken by the sun and the moon and the all the other visible planets across the sky. The celestial equator is an imaginary sphere with the observer at the center of the sphere, and this sphere has the equator, which is a celestial equator, and the celestial poles. And where these two spheres intersect are where the solstice and the equinoxes happen, and the vernal equinox also happens at the intersection of the ecliptic and the celestial sphere. So the reason why these two are aligned is or tilted is because of the tilt of the axis of the Earth itself by nature, and it is this tilt that causes the seasons of the Earth, right? So the vernal equinox was the point of meeting of the celestial sphere with the or the celestial equator with the ecliptic, and then the solstice was the point where the days and the days were either the days were the longest or the nights were the longest at any given time, right? So we also saw that the sky was divided at the 360 degrees, so the sky was divided into 12 rasis, in turn the 27 nakshatras. Now the rasis were used to track the movement of the sun, as as we even today, the solar ingress into specific rasis constitutes the beginning of the month, whereas the nakshatras were primarily studied from the tracking of the moon perspective, right? Uh, Next, Ajay. Yeah. So we saw that there's the precession of the equinoxes. So our ancient astronomers are observing that the vernal equinox point was changing against the backdrop of the fixed stars that were in the sky. People like Varahamihira, Nilakanta have taken note of it. They have also documented where the solstices happened in their times, which helps us uh, uh, accurately identify when their texts were written, and also establishes that they were actually closely tracking the precession of the equinoxes. Precession, as we discussed, is happens due to the wobbly motion of the Earth, uh, through by which the axis of rotation of the Earth itself is not fixed, but it keeps changing, and hence the the background of the stars kind of oscillates over a period of with a cycle of 26,000 years, and the pole star where the Earth's rotational axis points to, or the Dhruva Nakshatra, also keeps changing when observed in larger time frames. So our astronomers knew about precision. They were very much interested in calculating the value of the precision, and they took pains to pin down the exact precision value, because again it goes back to the problem of when is my vernal equinox, right? To answer that question, they needed precision as a tool or a technique, right? So next, Ajay. Yeah, and yeah, just click next. Yeah. Now, as a result of that, there were two systems that were used for different purposes: the Nirayana, or the sidereal system, or the Sayana, or the tropical system. Nirayana is the system that is based on the movement of the celestial bodies against the fixed backdrop of the stars. So of the stars is sidereal. So there's the sidereal system. So here the fixed point is always the beginning of the mesha, or what is called as the meshadi. It does not change with as the years pass by. However, the tropical system, which was used for more earth-based calculations, like the changing of seasons, and the vernal equinox and all that. So here, this was based on the vernal equinox, which is a moving point, right? So it is this movement that that the Sayana system is based on, and which our astronomers are calculating. And there is a difference between the sidereal and the tropical that is created because the vernal equinox point slips by a certain distance every passing year, and hence the difference of 20 minutes and 24.5 seconds between the two years that is happening. Uh, Next, Ajay. So today all our panchangas use uh, Dharayana system, so which is against the fixed backdrop of the stars. The only place where probably Sayana is used is for the accurate calculation of when the seasons start and when the seasons end, because this is more related to the tilt of the Earth, and hence it's more Earth related rather than related to where any planet is against the backdrop of stars, right? So, like I said, closely monitoring the precision of the equinoxes, and this is one of the text in purple is what was written by Varahamihira, and so which shows that they were documenting the precision of the equinoxes, right? And the difference between the sidereal and the tropical system is quantified by what we call as the ayanamsa, right? So how much of slip happens per year, right, in terms of arc minutes. So various astronomers, again, not only Indian, but also Chinese astronomers and Egyptians, everyone were calculating this. Indians came with very good estimates, uh, uh, kind of in the range of 54 arc minutes per year, which is very close to the modern day estimates of the precession of the Earth, right? So again, it shows that the sophistication of the observational astronomy we had even at that time, where astronomic instrumentation was not very modern like in the later years, and it also shows the mathematical rigor with respect to modeling these celestial phenomena, in terms of mathematical models, right? So all of these establish the greatness of our Indian astronomers in trying to understand the science. Next. Yeah, and then so this was all about space, right? So then what about time? So how did ancient astronomers think about time, right? Next, Ajay. So we saw that uh, we it starts from the life of the Brahma, and the life of Brahma is divided into Kalpa and Manvantara and Divya Yuga, and the Divya Yuga itself is divided into the four yugas in the ratio of 4, 3, 2, 1, which are symbolized by the four legs of the bull, and how Dharma stands on four legs in the Krita Yuga, but then it's standing on only one leg as in the Kali Yuga, and how the division of the yugas in this ratio also symbolizes the decline of the Dharma across the ages that are happening, right? We also saw that the life of the Brahma uh, ends in what we call it as a dissolution, or a Mahapralaya, and then the next cycle starts. So there was a lot of importance given to the cyclical nature of time, which is a very, very important concept in the entire Bharatiya astronomy. There was no beginning, there was no end. There are cycles of time, and there's a model that represents these cycles of time that are modeled through the Kalpa Manvantara Yuga model, right? But then there was a practical need also, yeah, I mean, this is good, but then people are not going to use 4.32 million solar years in their day-to-day life. So they came up with a more practical 5-year Yuga cycle for, again, again for the purpose of, let's say, a local reset of their calendar, right? So they wanted to again, uh, have a smaller cycle in which they were able to repeat the activities that are required for the yajna. So they came up with the uh, beginning of the 5-year uh, cycle at the winter solstice, which is the Magha Shukla Paksha, and then they have just slotted a certain time within that, right? And then the cycle repeats after the 5 years. Then there is a concept of the solar year, which is related to the movement of the sun across the rashis, typically followed in the southern part of India. So whenever sun enters one of the 12 rashis, the month begins. The last one being the Makara Sankranti, where sun entered Makara. So this was one system that was followed. There was an alternate system that was followed, which is the lunar calendar. Now, the lunar calendar depended or based the beginning of the month either based on a Purnima or a Amavasya, right? And so obviously, there is always a mismatch between these two models, right? So the 12 lunar months were defined as a samvatsara, time frame in which the seasons reside. So there are 60 samvatsaras, and each of 354 days, which consist of 12 lunar months starting from Chaitra to Falguna, And as per this system, the year begins at Chaitra Shukla Pratipat and ends with Falguna Krishna Amavasya. The year started with the Mesha Sankranti and ended with the uh, exit of sun from Meena, right? So that was the 1 year. So the solar year was 365 days. The lunar year was 354 days approximately. And people who are following both these calendars had to reconcile this difference of 11 days. Ajay, if you can just go to the next. Yeah. So, you can just expand all of them. So they had to come up with the concept of Adhika Masa to reconcile this. Then there was Dakshinayana and Uttarayana, 6 months each. The northward movement of the sun was captured is as defined as Uttarayana. The southward movement of the sun was captured as Dakshinayana. This is present in several, our Puranas, Itihasas, and literature. We saw the example of Kalidasa, how he captures the Dakshinayana as the moment of the migration of Rama from the northern part of India to southern part of India. Then we talked about the six seasons and how each season consisting of 12 months, and how the Vasanta Ritu was given kind of a very special place among the six seasons, so much so that Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita himself says that among seasons is the Vasanta Ritu, right? And then the lunar month. So from the Samvatsara to the Ayana to the Ritu, we come to the Masa. So the lunar month, consisted of these 15 tithis in the Shukla Paksha and the 15 tithis in the Krishna Paksha. And this is caused by the uh, movement of the moon around the earth. Uh, and we saw that this happens, in a time frame of about close to 29.5 days. And then there are these 12 months that are there, starting from Chaitra to Falguna. So there are two systems, Amanta and Purnimanta, different parts of the subcontinent used different systems. But then it totaled up to 354. Now the reconciliation between 354 and 365 needed an Adhika Masa, which occurs once in uh, approximately 3 years, or more specifically 7 times in 19 years. So we saw how, in detail, how the Adhika Masa calculations are done. Next, Ajay. Yeah. And then we also touched upon how the weekdays are fixed. We talked about the concept of Ahoratra, which is the day and the night time, and how based on the period of revolution of each planet, they fell in a particular order, and how our astronomers identified that the fourth graha of that particular day is actually the lord of the day, using which we are able to explain why the weekdays are in the order that they are, starting from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on, right? And then uh, so we saw that there are dimensions of time uh, that go to very, very, very low level, like the Anu and the Paramanu, and to very, very large time scales like the life of the Brahma and everything in between, right? So all of these were more for our own convenience, to kind of model the celestial events that were happening. But however, we do say that time is limitless. It does not have an beginning. It does not have an end. And all of these are created for our own convenience. We also talked about the Panchanga, how the Panchanga is based on the Tithi, Vara, Nakshatra, Yoga, and Karana. We saw the definitions of each of these and how to calculate the Panchanga for a given day. And it was important. The calculation of the Panchanga was important for doing all the yajna related activities. It continues to remain important today also for various day to day worldly affairs as well. So Next. Uh, Next slide, Ajay. Yeah, and then we briefly touched upon the planetary model in Bharatiya Astronomy. Where we saw that there weren't much references to planets in our texts except for Vena and Brahaspati, which is the Venus and Jupiter. We also saw how Aryabhata very accurately uh, calculated the revolutions in the Mahayuga and hence the sidereal period of each of the grahas, which very, very, very accurately matches with the modern day value. So we were able to achieve very high levels of accuracy even during the days of Aryabhata, and Nilakanta came and only improvised upon it by further refining calculations and making it accurate, but also proposing a deviation from the geometric model into what is a quasi-heliocentric model. Where he said that Venus, the inner planets, Venus and Mercury, were actually revolving around the sun, and the sun in turn was revolving around the Earth, which predates actually Copernicus and Tycho Brahe and astronomers like that. So we can actually take the credit. Indian astronomers take the credit for deviating from the geocentric and proposing a quasi-heliocentric model. We also looked at the Ahargana, which is the odometer of of the car, that is time, and it provides a way to calculate the total number of mean days that are elapsed since the beginning of Kali Yuga. In general, it is used. This formula can be applied even to the other yugas, but we are in Kali Yuga, so we use it to calculate to the Kali Yuga number of elapsed civil days. And there is a very detailed mathematical formula that we saw at a very high level, but we did not go into the detail of it for the lack of time in this particular course, but hopefully, in a future course. And then, while we went through all these facts, we also looked at some very interesting systems that our astronomers use. For example, Aryabhatta used his own table for or way of encoding large numbers into words. We looked at the Bhuta Sankhya system, which also is a uh, very nice way to and a very practical way to represent large astronomical numbers into very simple decipherable phrases in Sanskrit. And so it was not all about just dealing with raw numbers and facts and figures and theoretical models and all that. There was an element of poetry, and that was always weaved into all the knowledge systems that are there, including astronomy. So there is one more, let's say, very unique thing with the Indian astronomy is that we just uh, find a way to very nicely blend the aesthetics of poetry and hard into the hard ways of mathematics, right? So I think we kind of ended up there. Needless to say, there were a lot of topics that we wanted to cover, but we could not. Right? For example, we wanted to touch upon the instrumentation that was used in Bharatiya astronomy, and we also wanted to show all these movement of time and the solstices and the Dhruva Nakshatra positions and all those things that we saw using software. We use Jagannatha Hora extensively to an extent, but something like a stellarium is something that again we could not explore in this particular course. There are other topics I'm sure Ajay would add, like the Western narratives on Indian astronomy and on those kind of aspects as well. So we covered uh, we covered good ground in the last 4 to 5 months, but then there are also so many other topics that we that are interesting we could not find. There are more stories and anecdotes that we did not touch that are equally interesting as well. But hopefully, we could get an opportunity to do that in a future course. And yeah, I think with that, I think we should wrap up this entire course at this point. And again, very our heartfelt gratitude to all of you who not only took interest to enroll into the course, but also regularly attended all our courses, showed keen interest in following the subject and asking questions and keeping us on our toes and helping us to refine the content. Again, this is the first time such a course is being conducted in Arsha Seva Kendram. It was a huge learning for Ajay and I as well. In fact, I would even say that we luckily learned a lot in this course, more than the course in which we studied ourselves. So again, heartfelt gratitude to all of you. And uh, yeah, if you have any feedback as to what went well, what did not go well, how to improve, and all that, I think you can share it. But I think we can wrap up the course at this point of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Learned a lot from both of you in this course. So it was
Thank you,
really
sir.
good.
Yeah.
Looking forward, I was always looking forward to this morning class on a Sunday to learn something new from you. Now I have to find what to do for that 1 hour vacancy, which happens every week now, till you announce the next class.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your kind words. Yeah,
Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Let's be in touch, sir.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, sir.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, sure.
When is the sequel coming, Madhuji?
We'll have to ask JKG. But see, again, okay, so just for you to know also, right? I mean, I think the digital presence of this course has actually been quite good. I mean, in terms of the YouTube views and comments and likes, it has been so there is some level of interest beyond this class, I think, right? So that's a bit encouraging. And obviously, again, the the content of this course is also not trivial, as I keep saying, my friends and everyone, right? It is, it is quite difficult to understand these classes. So uh, we will definitely
No, on
there
the
will be a different.
contrary,
No, no. So there will be a sequel to the. Sorry, sorry. Just to complete your question, right? There will be a sequel, but hopefully that sequel is little bit more simplified, structured, and more palatable to the audience, right? Funny Raj, to your question, direct answer to your question. Yes. There will be a sequel for sure.
no, it was not at all difficult to understand for someone, a layman like
Okay.
me. I don't come from
Mhm.
any big qualifications. I'm more of a farmer than any highly qualified person. But I can easily follow everything. The idea of joining this course was to actually learn Jyotish. Trust me. I thought it's all about
Mm.
how the astronomy and astrology interlinked. That was the whole idea I sort of joined. But then on the intro day, I saw a lot of luminaries joining up. I thought, okay, I'll leave this course actually halfway through. But then as it progressed, it got me hooked into, as the gentleman was saying, what will I do next Sunday? It's a big void, 1 hour. We don't know how I mean, in India, it's Sunday evening. So that will be a big void. So I request both of you, Arsha Seva Kendra as well, and all of you to continue this course. This law, I mean, it's endless. The knowledge is endless. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Just
Thank you.
to
Thank
give
you.
you a
Thank
small
you. And I
introduction.
think what we will be doing is we'll be chatting with Jai Kumarji and trying to see what the plans of our Sheva Kendra is going to be. And then we'll get back to you.
Yeah, so yeah, one quick thing in this whole thing. Right. I mean, I completely agree with all the feedback that the listeners give. Right, it is really so. Come what may, I would like make sure it's around 6:30 a.m. for me when the course starts. But it was always worthwhile 1 hour to kind of sit and listen through, because there is always something new to learn. Right. In terms of if you guys have in terms interesting to hear about is we are seeing the archaeological astronomy or astronomical archaeology being one of an important tool these days to date quite a bit of it, right? Like how what Madhuji just mentioned, right? So we're using precision as a tool to date things, right? For example, Nakshatra Suktam starts with Kritika Nakshatra, right? And so that with that we know when it was compared to from when we are where we are right now. So from that perspective, it will be really good to understand how to use the planetary softwares to kind of understand. I mean, yes, one thing is to just use the simple drift and the precision to date everything, but in general, I mean, there are quite a few trends happening here in terms of dating most of our epics. Um, uh, in terms of when those events happened, and there are a lot of debates happening online about it, so it'll be good to kind of understand those software to be able to understand those debates a little bit better. So if you could kind of educate us on the various
Sure.
astronomical tools that are available to
Yeah.
date various planetary observations that we see in
Yeah.
our epics, that would be really very useful in terms of educating the general indie crowd in terms of understanding these debates, and maybe help the conversations in a little bit informed way than just taking sides about uh, whom we like the most.
Got it. Got it. Got it. No, no, no. I think thank you for that feedback, Ram. Definitely. Yeah, we will revisit the course structure based on this feedback. We will definitely include this element. Yeah, like you said, right? It's a very popular topic nowadays. A lot of interest into dating. Mahabharata and Ramayana. But I think we should take it a little bit further. Go into
Yeah,
the other texts. Where other events are mentioned, and you know kind of start creating a timeline of events, right? That I think that would be really good thing to have, and we should, yeah, definitely leverage Stellarium and our software to do that. Yeah, thanks, Ram. I think we'll take that feedback back to
yeah.
the course structure for the next course. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's just you guys' modesty that you said that your course was not structured that well compared to the course that I was taking. I actually saw your course to be a lot more structured in terms of being able to anticipate what's coming next. So I think the
Yeah.
structure has been good. It's actually uh, uh, one way is to kind of know what are all the topics that are coming up. It'll be really
Yeah.
good.
Sure. I think Tots was about to say something, right? Sorry.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
I was going to say to Faniraj that I've been talking to Jayakumar sir to start a course on casting of horoscopes. So how to cast a horoscope is something which I wanted to take a class. So I'm working with Jayakumar ji to see how we can do that quickly.
Okay.
Oh, that's wonderful thoughts, Mahoday. Really
Yeah.
wonderful. Look
Yeah.
forward to.
Yeah. So, just briefly touching upon Ram, your point, right? In terms of the structure of the course, see, I think the for it was actually very difficult, at least for me, to structure this course, right? Because the concepts are so interrelated that I don't know which is the first concept, which as a prerequisite to the other concept. Should you understand the sidereal and the tropical system to understand precision, or should you understand precision to understand the sidereal? It's a chicken and egg kind of a problem, right? So I was struggling to order my slides as to which should come first, so because we don't want to confuse people with a concept that they are not familiar. So that was one challenge, but and also the body is vast, right? I mean, so you could keep going deep into astronomical references in these texts and talk about different things that are there. But then this was supposed to be a basics of Bharatiya Astronomy course. So we wanted to prioritize the familiarity of different concepts as opposed to the depth of it. But unfortunately, there are a lot of areas that we still have not covered. Hopefully, in the sequel we will cover that. But yeah, structure. We put our effort, but it was quite difficult for us to structure the course also. Yeah.
I think one of the things that I really wanted to convey was the profoundness and the depth of knowledge that existed in our system for thousands of years. And that is something that is very easily not considered by many people. And I think with time that is coming out, and with the introduction of the IKS into different syllabus and whatnot. So that is definitely something that I learned and I wanted to convey.
I have one bit of feedback, Mahoday. I really enjoyed this class. I know I like missed a couple, but I went back on YouTube and got all caught up. The one thing that I recognized is not everybody comes with the same baseline knowledge. So instead, so for example, if you're like talking about like a nakshatra mandala or whatever the different nakshatras, some of when you say it's basics, maybe like going over what they are for some, because I am like barely familiar, so I actually had to go back and like, okay, what are they talking about in the class? So I had to do my own research to kind of saying, okay, these are all the nakshatras that they're talking about. And having, because it said basics, I was hoping to also see some basics. So even if it is like a 10-minute basic thing of, okay, these are the different nakshatras that the system recognizes, and or the different constellations. And from the time Ajay sir pointed out the Orion belt, every time I go out in the morning, I look up for it and look up for it in the sky, especially in January month. So having that like basic systems of the, even understanding the different constellations in the night sky would have been great.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
Yeah, good point. And Srilata, I think actually even we had the challenge when we took these course when we were on the other side of the meetings, right? So we were see, again the the knowledge is so vast, right? That we were talking a lot of things without understanding the fundamentals, like what is ecliptic or what is celestial equator, right? So in this course, so we recognize that pain, and in this course, what we have tried to do is we have said, let's do the fundamentals. Let's do it a little bit more in a detailed way. We wanted the fundamentals to be set right before we start to take on the more advanced concepts that are there. And our effort was that. So sorry if actually if that did not come out as we still think these were the basics, but if it had to be more at a very basic level, maybe we'll take that as feedback, and we'll work on that.
No,
And then
no,
we
no.
were trying to balance
I mean, to me, it was
it.
profound,
Yeah,
very
no,
basic.
it was
It cannot
almost
be any
trying
more
to
basic.
it was trying to find a balance between how much we want to strengthen the fundamentals versus how much we want to show the entire thing, or the beauty that is there, in the texts that are there, right? So
Absolutely.
we were trying to
I completely
strike that
understand
balance
that.
very delicately. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then
Actually,
the part that I really enjoyed in this course was like having those homeworks where you had to go back and think and do the calculations. Those were phenomenal. I got so much out of that.
Good. Very good.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, and in fact, we want to thank all of you for number one, showing up in all these classes, which was a huge encouragement for us. Number two is very sincerely, all of you were submitting your assignments. Most of them were correct, and we could see the effort behind the assignments, and really, really, it was you took it very seriously and you attempted that. So, a heartfelt gratitude for that as well. Thanks for all the efforts. Yeah.
Yeah.
on Madhu,
Thank you very
in
much.
the suggestion from the perspective of what Srilata ji mentioned, right? Maybe you don't probably may not need to cover it yourself. Maybe if there are other YouTube videos specifically that covers as a prerequisite to understand some concepts, if you could pass it
Yeah.
through. So, for example, let's say if you are going to talk about a planetarium software, maybe how to use it might be might be a video from the software company themselves to be able to familiarize with how to install, how to do it and stuff. Given the 1 hour that you have to cover, if you can give us something that could be the homework for the previous week, so that you'll be able to understand it this week, right? So, Srilataji, I mean, feel free
wonderful feedback.
to comment about it. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, see, I completely agree with you, right? See, we meet for a very small time, and hopefully, we know that time could be more in the next course. But then we want to make best use of that time. If so, certain, say, let's say, low-hanging fruit, right? Use a cliched word. If you can, prepare it offline, or if you can just provide references, then we can use this class to give insights. Something that another YouTube will not be able to show you, right? For example, see, I think personally, I enjoyed taking the class where I talked about the progression of the weekdays. I hope you found it interesting as well, right? I mean, now we want the class to be used for that kind of discussions, right? So because I think there's a joy in providing and consuming that knowledge. I hope you can agree with that, right? And take the more mundane stuff out of this and do it offline, like Ram mentioned. But then again, uh, adjusting the structure to do that will be a problem for us to solve, right? We'll have to do that. Yeah. For example, list of nakshatras and all that, you could do it offline, but then we could focus on uh, beautiful stories related to these nakshatras, all those tidbits of nuggets, which only individual persons are bringing that knowledge to the class, right? So maybe we can focus on that aspect. Yeah, it's a good point, Ram.
Because
Completely agree with you. Yes.
because from the course that I taught, I had the similar issues where there were some people who dropped off because it was too simple, for some people who dropped off because it was too difficult. So what essentially the people who stays back are the ones who or take the pain to understand. Like I'm very glad that Srinataji basically went back to the homework to be able to educate herself to come to the next class. Right? I don't think too many people have that kind of a discipline to be able to do that. So I mean, like Soumyaji's Sanskrit class, she said, like teachers pretty much read before the class, students read after the class, right? So that kind of discipline is needed for a success of any class for that matter, right? So from that perspective, I kind of realized that maybe even in the I was planning to give a feedback to GKG about we as course authors to provide a list of prerequisites of what to know, and maybe even before the course starts, give the set of like a playlist. So that may be another way of kind of approaching that. I mean, I'll be more than happy to have a discussion offline on how we can make it even more productive in terms of the time in the class and what I've observed from other teachers. And I learned a lot from you guys in terms of how to teach a class as well. So hats off to you guys.
Yeah. It was very well structured.
And I really enjoyed asking those quiz questions at the beginning, just to kindle your curiosity. So in a way, this class also brought out a small creative element out of me. How can I interest the audience and also make it relevant to what we are going to study? And lastly, Ram, I mean, it's not only about the assignments, while it's a valid point. It's also about the offline questions, that you in particular kept on asking, prodding, making me think about some of the things that we covered in the course. That is also very it shows your enthusiasm, and it shows your what do you call it, the thirst for the knowledge. Very, very appreciate. I really appreciate that very much, Ram. Besides the assignment, the discipline behind the assignments as well. So thank you very much for that as well.
I really appreciate that.
All right.
Cool.
I think we'll wrap up now because I need to do a few other things, including having my breakfast.
Thank you, Ajayji, Madhuji, and all the
Thank you.
panelists.
Thank you. And
thank you very much.
Dhanyawadaha for one last time in this course. And I'm sure we are going to meet somewhere in some course later down the line. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Please don't
Thank you.
disappoint us.
Thank you very much,
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sri
Thank you.
Gurubhyo Namaha.
Jai Guru Bhyo Namaha.